Welcome to the Celebrity Gourmet Podcast, where we feature top bakery and specialty food entrepreneurs from around the world and share stories and tips on how to create a successful life in the baking world.
Hi, I'm Odette Danello, the host of the Celebrity Gourmet Podcast, where I interview women in the bakery industry to hear how they live their creative lives and share their adventures in running a bakery business. I want to encourage you to go back and check out our past episodes with Stephanie Kriebel of OMG Pretzels in Philadelphia, Katie Pope, founder of Blue Star Donuts in Portland, Oregon, Patty Stoba of Patty Cakes in Conway, Arkansas, Megan Wagstaff of Lady Yum in Seattle, Bronwyn Weber from Bronwyn Cakes in Dallas, and Becky Palermo of Creative Cakes in Chicago, among way more other ladies who are in the bakery space. Today, I am super excited to talk to Lucy Damkoehler, the founder and owner of Sweet Lucy's Bake Shop in Bernardston, Massachusetts. Lucy has loved baking since an early age. She worked at a bakery when she was 16 and then pursued a culinary arts education from the New England Culinary School in Vermont. From there, she moved to New York and worked at Gramercy Tavern. And then she traveled to Hawaii and all over Europe, where she honed her pastry skills as an apprentice in the pastry departments in a number of restaurants and bakeries. She landed in Seattle, where she made a name for herself as one of the best pastry chefs in the region. And as you know, I am from the Seattle-Tacoma area, so this is a super exciting interview for me because we no longer have Lucy in Seattle. In 2018, she moved back to her hometown where she opened Sweet Lucy's Bake Shop, and she'll tell us more about that venture in a minute. Today's episode is brought to you by Celebrity Gourmet Ventures, Inc., Celebrity Cake Studio, and Dragonfly Cakes, our family-owned and operated specialty bakery in Tacoma, Washington. At Celebrity Gourmet, we have been baking joy into all of our artistically designed cakes and desserts for 25 years. We are proud to work with a vibrant team of cake designers and bakers who help you celebrate the sweet moments in your lives. To learn more about how you can celebrate yourselves or the one you love, visit us at celebritycakestudio.com and dragonflycakes.com or email us at info@celebritycakestudio.com. Before introducing Lucy, I want to give a big thank you to Angie Facey of Our Family Farms in Leiden, Massachusetts. Angie owns a dairy farm, and she spoke to me about Lucy and was so highly excited when I had told her I had a podcast interviewing bakery owners, women bakery owners. She says, "You must interview Lucy." I met Angie back in December doing a Bob Burke seminar in Boston. And so it has taken me a little bit to get a hold of Lucy, and, we hit it off. So here we are at a podcast interview, and I wanted to just say hello, Lucy, and thank you for being on the Celebrity Gourmet Podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me. This is really exciting to be a part of this, and thanks for including me. It's awesome.
Oh my gosh, I'm super excited. I just wanted to know about your story. So tell us about how you got started, just how did you get started in the bakery and what was your journey?
Yeah, so I started baking bread with my dad when I was in 5th grade. He had like a kind of an obsessive personality, and he had a huge garden for a really long time. Gave that up, started baking bread, gave that up, and bought a motorcycle. But I kind of kept the joy of the baking, and so we would bake together. And he was a technical writer, so not a baker at all. But and then I vividly remember I was in 8th grade. I was loading the dishwasher at my house, and I was kind of like playing restaurant, like putting the silverware away, and I was like, I'm gonna be a chef. This is what I'm gonna do. And I decided that that minute was decision made. So then I pursued culinary school, and I started working in a bakery when I was 16. On the weekends, my dad would get up at 5 a.m. and drive me. It's pretty awesome. And then went to culinary school, and then started, and then went right to New York City after that.
Wow. So tell us about your journey because you went from culinary school. And this is for people who want to go to culinary school. And it sounds like you're a success story with that. And so what was your journey like after culinary school? How did you find the job? And what was that experience like?
Yeah. So the culinary school that I went to, New England Culinary Institute, they have 2 internship programs. So the first internship I did was with Hammersley's Bistro in Boston. And I really bonded with the chef, Gordon Hammersley. He became such a huge mentor to me. And he was on the board of our culinary school. So when it came time to going into my second internship, I was kind of thinking where I could go. And I reached out to Gordon and was like, hey, like, what should I do? Where should I go on an internship? And he was kind of throwing out some restaurants, and he had said Gramercy Tavern. And at that year, I think Gramercy Tavern they were definitely on one of the top 50 restaurants in Gourmet magazine. And I just kind of had a moment of like, wait, I can work there. Like that's something I can actually do. Small town, like you don't think you get to work in the best restaurant in the country or top restaurants. But he encouraged me. He's like, yeah, of course. So I, luckily was able to go in as an intern, which I think gave me the foot in the door. And from there, it's just up to you as the employee to take it and run with it. So I started off in the savory program because I didn't do baking and pastry. I did a savory culinary degree. I'm a little bit too old. The baking and pastry was not a thing at the time when I was in culinary school. It became popular like maybe a few years later. But I'm glad that I didn't specialize only in baking because it gave me the savory culinary skills that I have that has really given me jobs a lot. So pastry chef jobs are kind of an amenity. So it's hard. Most restaurants don't have pastry chefs.
Yeah.
It's a luxury position. So with my savory background, I was able to go in and kind of advertise myself as being able to, I can butcher a chicken and I can decorate a wedding cake. I can be so 50% baking and 50% I can be whatever you need me to be. And I was able to get a couple jobs, kind of being able to do both. So the culinary program at school was savory, but then when I started at Gramercy, I was on the line for a few months and then finished my internship. And that's when I started talking to the pastry department and kind of weaseled my way into the pastry department and settled in there for about a year and a half. And that's when I really was able to get my pastry education, was once I got in at Gramercy. So
what was the difference? So I know, because, I do know, from my experience, that if you know how to cook, it's a skill that is not necessary. It's translatable into baking, but bakers don't necessarily know how to cook. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, no, and I like that question because this is kind of all over the place, but my current venture right now is I'm a bakery owner. I own a bakery, but we just opened a few months ago. We opened a cooking school, so we have a classroom available, and I'm teaching just open to the public, local people, and a lot of it's baking that I'm teaching them, but I'm also teaching some savory cooking. But my favorite thing to teach people, like amateur bakers and home cooks, is about, I think because of my savory background, I feel like I have a little bit more flexibility in baking or I feel a little bit more calm and more flexible with baking because baking's precision, but it's also, you can ad lib a little bit. I mean, some pastry chefs would probably kill me for saying that, but
right.
There's a point where savory cooking, everybody, a lot of people who cook at home say, oh, cooking's easy. I can just throw this and a little bit of this in and a little bit of that. And baking, you have to follow precision and you have to follow a recipe. And I agree with them about following recipes and also not really throwing things in and out. But at the same time, I think that with my savory background of training, it kind of helps me be a little bit more free with how I bake. That makes sense.
That's super exciting that you opened up a cooking school. So tell us more about that.
Yeah. So when I first started in Seattle, I was working at Andaluca, so a restaurant in the Mayflower Park
Oh
Hotel.
yeah, I know
Yeah,
him.
and I worked for Wayne Johnson, was the chef at the time, and so I started off as a pastry chef, and I needed to supplement my income because it wasn't, it doesn't pay a ton, so I needed to get a second job. And Wayne was a part of the Blue Ribbon Cooking School in Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he was like, "Awesome, I've got a part-time job for you. Come meet me down here." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know if
Mhm.
I can teach." I was like 22. I was like, I'm not sure if I can do this. So I did one class and immediately fell in love with it. It was so much fun. So I taught cooking classes in Seattle part-time for the whole 12 years I was there. It was awesome. So, sometimes I had jobs that were a little bit more intense and I couldn't do a part-time job. And then other times when I was a stay-at-home mom, air quotes, I worked like 30 hours a week teaching classes. So it was really became a huge part of my life. So when I moved to Massachusetts, I wanted to make that a part of the business, but our kitchen's really small. And then, so it was really hard to I was working, 60, 70 hours a week, trying to find time to take away from production to teach a class. And it didn't end up really working. And then COVID happened. The story, our business actually like blew up, which was really awesome. We're really successful. And I was able to raise enough money to be able to put an addition on our building to have fun.
Nice.
Yeah. So now we have a separate space for it.
That's beautiful. Do you
Yeah.
have do you have people who help you bake? How many employees do you have?
Kitchen? Yeah, I have like 13 or 14 employees. I have about 6 full-time, and then the rest are part-time, some high school kids. So it's huge. We started off with just me as the baker, and I had a person helping me wash dishes and peel apples. And now I can sit here and do a podcast while my employees are baking. It's pretty great.
That's yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So how was that experience going from the maker and the creator to becoming a boss?
I'm still living it, and it is the most uncomfortable thing I've ever gone through. So, I
Mm.
mean, I've been a pastry chef where I've managed employees, but I've always been kind of like a working alongside chef manager where I'm doing the labor with them and producing alongside them, and then just kind of making sure that they're following recipes and they're making things correctly, and all the proper managerial stuff. Um, but in the last year, since I added the classroom, I've really had to figure out how to kind of manage from above, or and it's really hard. It's really hard letting go. It's hard not micromanaging your employees, but at the same time, it's hard to give them enough freedom where you just watch them mess something up. So it's a daily struggle for sure.
Right. So what does your day look like? Like how do you split your days?
So I usually get to the shop around 4 or 5 in the morning, and I'll do some paperwork and emails, and then I'm often in the kitchen sometime around 8 or so, just checking in on people. I very much like 2 times a week, 3 times a week, I'll have to run errands to go shopping because we're in such a small town that our delivery vendors is pretty small. So I don't have a lot of options for
Mm.
getting product delivered here. So I'll run errands, and then I come back. I try to take a little me time in the middle of the day. And then when I have cooking classes at night, I often come back and start prepping for the classes around 4 in the afternoon. And then I'm home around 8, 8:30. So
That's a long day.
it's not every day like that, but it's probably right now it's like 2 to 3 days a week. I'm actively trying to get to the point where I can come in a little bit later, and then also eventually have cooking instructors that will help me that can teach classes, and I won't be teaching all the classes. But for right now, as we're starting this new project, it's all me.
That's super cool. I remember Blue Ribbon Cooking School opened in Tacoma. There was a venue
Yeah.
there,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, it's called is it the Sanders, or maybe yeah, anyway, I don't remember what it was, but yeah, they have a location that they do wedding venues. They're actually huge. They have a lot of vendors at this point they're working with. The cooking classes are in Eastlake, and they mostly specialize in corporate team building events, which are so much fun. And that's what I'd love to do here too. It's just really fun watching employees work together, cooking together.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you guys do it? Did you have menus? How did you do it?
In Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah. It depended on what the client chose, but there was menued classes. But the more popular one was an Iron Chef competition. So they would split the group in half and they would compete against each other. There was like a secret ingredient, and each group would have to make a dessert, an entree, and a side dish. And it was fun.
That is so cool. I love that whole thing. I mean, I've taken a class. I don't know if it was Blue Ribbon, but it's always just so fun to eat what you make.
Yeah.
Right?
Just watching their faces and feeling like, wow, I could do that. Like it was really,
Yes.
yeah. And then I also helped. I taught classes at Whisk, which is in Bellevue.
Mhm.
Or like a kitchen store and classroom. So
Oh,
I did
yeah.
it for about a year, and then I got pregnant with my second kid, so I had to back off. But that was fun too.
And then you helped open the hot chocolate company.
Hotcakes. Yeah.
Hotcakes, right.
I was the opening kitchen manager with Hotcakes, and that really gave me an opportunity to kind of get firsthand what it's like to own a small business from a female pastry chef. Um, who
What was the
really
name? What was her name?
Her name is Autumn Martin. She sold the company recently. Hotcakes is still in existence, but I think she co-owns Frankie and Joe's in Capitol Hill. It's an ice cream shop, but
Oh, fun.
sold hotcakes. But it's still open.
That's fun. I love that.
Yeah.
I love their product. That's so good.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a good way to see what it was like to start up a company, and really understand the amount of time that it takes to run a business. I mean, it's a huge dedication. As I'm
And now
sure
you're experiencing it.
yeah.
But it
5 years.
seems like have been very, very successful. Tell me about, like, how do you feel inside, this is a dream come true? I mean, how do you see your life like in this perspective, like where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything. It's probably hard to reflect when you're living it, and but it absolutely is a dream. Although I never really knew that this was a dream. Like I always had the idea that I wanted to get a pastry chef job or a job in the restaurant food industry, and have a job that I love, that I can stay long term. And in the end, I ended up, doing my own business, which is what it just kind of dropped in my lap. And the story the way that I got this business is pretty magical. I mean, it's pretty
Yeah,
incredible.
tell us a story.
So I'm from Bernardston. I was raised here. I moved when I was 18 to go to culinary school. And about 2 weeks before I went off to culinary school, this adorable little red barn building got turned into a bakery. It was a real estate office, but these people came from New York, and they renovated the building, turned it into a bakery. And I was so bummed that they had only opened right as I was going to culinary school. I would have worked for them that's the bakery I would have worked at. I worked at a different one, a little further away. So I went in and introduced myself and just kind of made friends with them, and then went off to culinary school. And then over the years, like 18 years over, every time I'd come home for summer or Christmas, I would stop in and say hi and chat with them. And they became kind of mentors that I never really worked for, but just that kind of, anytime I had any advice that I needed, I would bounce ideas off of them. So they're really amazing people, and I got to know them pretty well. And then I was in Seattle working at Seattle University as the corporate pastry chef for Bon Appetit Management Company.
Mhm.
And Bon Appetit had been the management company in that building for 20 years, but the contract became up for renewal. And we all just kind of assumed that Bon Appetit was going to get it. But
Yeah.
Seattle University decided to go with a different company. And
Oh.
so our VP pulled us into an office, basically to tell us that we didn't get the contract. But about an hour before the meeting happened, my mom called me and said, "Hey, I just got a message on our landline that nobody has that anymore, but we got a message online from Mike from the bakery asking for your contact information because he has a bakery opportunity." And I was like, "Oh, whatever. Okay." I had my daughter was like, not even a year yet, and we were maybe talking about the idea of moving back, but And I had told them that I wanted to open something maybe in Vermont somewhere, not in my hometown, like never.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't really think anything of it. Then we sat down to hear that we were going to be losing our jobs, basically. And I had this moment of like, oh my gosh, what is this bakery phone call? Anyway, it turns out the same day I found out I was getting laid off was the day that Mike and Kay said, we want to give you first refusal to buying the bakery for retiring. I was like, what?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So I went home and, quickly started working on a business plan. And it was about 2 weeks into working on the business plan that we were sitting on the couch. My husband was, we're just watching a TV show, and I looked at him. I'm like, wait a second. I never actually asked if you wanted to do this. Like, right?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, of course. But it was just really incredible that became available. So it was awesome. And we would come home for Christmas, and every time we were home, he's from Illinois, but he's like, oh, it's so beautiful here. We should move back. I'm like, no, I'm never moving back.
And here you are, like your hometown girl, and you have a fan base.
Yeah. I mean, it was really cool. There's 5 kids in my family, and my mom was really involved in all the schools. She's a fiber artist, so she would, so everybody knows our name. It's a very unique name, Damkoehler. So moving back, and I kept my maiden name. Everybody just was like, oh, you're Damkoehler, like awesome. And there's our town, I think, is really friendly, but I do think that a small town, they welcome their own faster than they would a transplant. So I had that going for me, and it was like immediately right out the gate that we had a massive support system here. It's been incredible.
Angie was like, you have to interview them. You have to. I was like, okay, I will.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's been really, I mean, it really is, it's back to the dream, I think the idea of being able to own a bakery in a small town is such a dream. Of course you have to live the dream. So it comes with a lot of, it's not quite all fairy tales.
Yes.
But I'm just so lucky. It's incredible.
It was like, it was meant for you.
It was so meant for me. Yeah, it absolutely was meant for me. When I was a younger kid, like, I don't know, 6th grade or something, we were across the street in the park, and a big thunderstorm came. So we needed like shelter. So we came into this building, and I just remembered the feeling that I had when I was in the building, sitting on the stairs. Like, it just was this like such a cozy memory, and the building's always really been very special to me. So I mean, I'm incredibly lucky. The building never went on the market. I was able to just like swoop right in and open up my own. And I opened my own business. They closed their bakery, and we did
and you bought all their equipment, and so you were.
Yeah, exactly. It was turnkey. So it was really, really a special opportunity that I had that I'm really grateful, and I mean, so lucky. So.
But you also prepared yourself for it. It wasn't just luck, right?
Right.
You
prepared
absolutely. Yourself for it.
Yeah. And I mean, I put 20 years in before I opened. And I think that the path that I took was really led me this way. So, I had multiple different places that I worked on my resume. So I worked in a small startup being hotcakes. I worked for corporate dining, which is where I learned how to do P&Ls and the kind of the more the business part of it. Working in restaurants and understanding the demand for quality and consistency. Not to say that bakeries don't, that they absolutely do too, but I think there's, some of these finer dining restaurants, there's really a high demand for consistency. And I think that really helps a lot. So,
and then you traveled too. You were in Hawaii. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. I had a friend that was the chef at Hotel Hanamaui, and their pastry chef was leaving. And so I had just left New York. My father passed away. So I kind of came home for a little bit and was looking for my next adventure. And he called and said, hey, we've got a pastry chef position. At this point, I was young, and I had not been a manager or pastry chef yet. So that was my first job as a pastry chef. But I mean, I jumped at the opportunity. I didn't know I had no idea what Hana was. I literally did not do my research. I was like, sure, I'll be the pastry chef. I don't care where it is. And and one of my friends was like, do you understand where you're moving to? I was like, yeah, somewhere in Hawaii. And I landed, and I realized, oh yeah, this is a really, really small town. But because I'm from a small town, I think it worked well. I did get a little island fever and was ready to travel after that year. But we changed the menu every night because it was such like a remote area. So the chef didn't want our guests to be bored with food. So he required for us to change the menu every night. So I had a massive opportunity to build a repertoire of desserts. Some of them were amazing, and I still do. Some of them were, I feel so bad for whoever came in and got them.
And it was regional. Probably you had to use the regional, the produce and ingredients.
Yeah, and it was pretty awesome because I could take like some of the French techniques that I had learned in culinary school and and apply it to different flavors. And then again, I think that gave me a really good opportunity to, I think the way that I like to explain I really relate to being a new American bakery instead of a new American restaurant. I feel like we're a new American bakery. So French techniques with some kind of American whim of creativity and the melting pot. So it did give me
what's an example of a new American menu?
Well, I would say Gramercy is like, so basically not extremely French, like, following French techniques, but perhaps maybe adding a little bit more modern, twist to it and some ingredients and a little more whim than the
nice. What's your specialty?
My specialty, I don't really know. It's hard to say that, like to identify for myself, but I will say that when I was in Seattle, I was obsessed with the twice baked croissants from Bakery Nouveau. And
yes.
I would eat them like every Sunday. It was my favorite thing. So when I moved to Massachusetts, I was in withdrawal mode. I've never been a croissant baker. Like I trained myself on how to make croissants, but I was like, well, I have to have these twice baked. I can't live without them. And so now we're making like 150 croissants a day, 200 croissants a day, just to get them stale to make twice baked. So those are really probably one of our most popular items. And then we have this like a raspberry financier, we call it raspberry cornbread. And that one has become like surprisingly really popular. So we mostly specialize in breakfast pastries. We do some cakes. But
you do wholesale?
We do a few. We have a couple of restaurants that we work with. But honestly, retail has been so great for us that we haven't needed to tap into that realm yet, which has been kind of nice.
That's great.
Yeah. And then we started doing take and bake frozen meals in 2020. And that ended up being like really crazy great for our business. So the idea is when we went into quarantine and lockdown, like we were essential. So we were able to come to work, but I didn't feel okay with bringing people out to buy a $3 cookie. I couldn't sustain my business. I felt like it wasn't a need. So we started making like chicken pot pies and mac and cheese and casseroles. And it was giving people a reason to come in. People would come and buy like 5 or 6 of them, drop them off at their neighbors' houses. It was a really good pivot. And honestly, I was so grateful I knew how to cook. So
that's exactly what I was going to say. And you know how to cook. Yes.
Yeah, because I have that savory background, I'm not pigeonholed into just doing cookies. And I really had a good sense of how to make food I was so happy when I opened the bakery and I have like one breakfast sandwich and that's it. No savory, anything. I don't do sandwiches like a traditional. I was like, this is amazing. We're making this happen with just sweet. Because if I didn't have to ever cut an onion again, I'd be so happy.
And then
sustain my business. We were able to really do good for the community. I mean, as a mom myself, I knew the struggle of, thank God we hired babysitters to homeschool our kids while we had to, but just the idea of like having to deal with that all day and then cooking, it was really a pivot that we had to make. And it's been awesome. It's been great for our business now. So we tried taking it away for a couple weeks in December because I was so overwhelmed and busy with adding the cooking school in, and customers revolted. So they're back.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, you know what? Take and bake is so, I think that's one of those things that grocery stores have really focused in on because it becomes your second kitchen. It's like one less thing you have to think about, right?
And exactly. And especially I think the locals really love it because they trust us making it. And, it's an open kitchen. They can literally see everything we do.
Yeah.
So yeah, to be able to have a trusted source that you can get it from. And we had a restaurant in town and they closed, and they never were able to reopen. So, we've got 2 pizza places in town. We have a general store and the bakery for food. So,
Wow.
so it was really my responsibility as a business owner in town to be able to provide food to, the people I promised I would nourish them. So it was a
Well,
natural step. So.
they are so lucky to have you.
Yeah, well,
They're
we're
so
lucky
lucky to have
we're
you.
lucky to be here. It's an amazing town. I love this town. There's only 2,000 people in this town. There's no stoplights. It's really small.
Well, I can't wait to visit. I have
Yeah,
friends
you
who
have
live
to come
in
visit for
Boston.
sure. Yep.
I would love to come and visit because I there's there's something about eating food from people who really love what they do.
Yeah.
It's different than
Yeah. I
slopped on mac and cheese or just a cake that's just thoughtlessly made, right?
yeah,
But if it's made with intention and with
yeah.
love, the energy really translates.
Yeah, for sure. And it's yeah, we live and breathe it. And I feel really lucky to be able to have I feel it's great that I can give this opportunity to some other say kids, but anyone really, any like person that's really interested in their career in the food industry in Western Massachusetts. There's not a lot of places that they can go and practice their skills professionally. So it's been nice watching. I've got a couple employees they have so much. They're doing awesome, and watching them grow has been really fun. Now I got to open a second place now, so they have a place to go. I don't want them to leave me.
Yeah. I mean, so you were
Me.
mentored by Gordon and now you're the mentor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's fun. I mean, it's pretty cool. I do think that our town has allowed me to really just do whatever platform I want to do. So it's up to me with what I want to do. They'll accept it. So
That's amazing. Well,
yeah.
it's been a pleasure. I just have one more question.
Yeah.
If you were to talk to, or if you had a chance to talk to your younger self, what would you tell her?
Oh, I would tell her to calm down and chill out. It's all going to be okay.
That is the common answer for every person I've asked that. It's like, it's going to be okay.
Slow down. I mean, I appreciate my younger self and how hard she worked, and it's gotten me to where I am. So maybe my younger self should be talking to my older self, maybe the opposite.
Awesome. Oh
So,
my gosh. Well, one more question. What is that cake behind you?
oh, that's our lemon olive oil cake.
Oh, yum.
See if you can see the top.
It has a whoopie pie on the top.
Yeah, oh, it's a macaron actually.
It's a macaron. Oh, wow. Fun.
Our
I
most
can't wait.
popular cooking class. Everybody wants to take the macaron class.
Oh, yes, everyone does. I mean, I love macarons, but I have a nut-free facility. So
Oh,
we don't do almonds.
no. Yep.
Well, thank you so much for this amazing, inspiring talk. I'm so grateful that we met and that you're in this podcast and that, you've inspired me to, follow my dreams, right? And
Yeah,
hopefully you
absolutely.
inspired other people to be open and prepared for those great, amazing opportunities.
Yeah, that's such a good way. I love how you say that. Being open, I think is what has gotten me to where I want to be.
Well,
So.
thank you, Lucy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate this. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Celebrity Gourmet Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.